for the unborn. Dozens of Republican lawmakers want to make sure funding for a pro-life measure is included in an upcoming budget. Moving forward, the House impeachment case against former President Donald Trump has been delivered to the Senate. Another busy day. President Joe Biden signs more executive actions. We're at the White House. And a special funeral. A Vatican official remembers a homeless man in Rome. We'll explain. On EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, January 26th, 2021. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans are banding together in defense of the unborn. 200 GOP lawmakers sent a letter today to congressional leaders of both parties. They want assurances that any government funding bill will include a longstanding provision that prohibits taxpayer money from financing abortions. Correspondent Mark Irons reports. Mark?
Tracy, that pro-life provision, the Hyde Amendment, has been supported by Republicans and Democrats for decades, including now President Joe Biden, who supported it as recently as 2019. Democrats want to repeal the Hyde Amendment now, which would mean an end to conscience protection rights for millions of Americans.
We are proud to stand with members of Congress.
The battle to protect unborn babies faces a pivotal moment. Americans United for Life supports a letter signed by over 200 Republican members of Congress to all 4 congressional leaders. It reads, as part of their pro-abortion crusade, Democrats have taken direct aim at these long-standing bipartisan protections that generally prevent the federal government from using taxpayer dollars to support abortion procedures.
The Democrats and our leaders in power must stop listening to the abortion lobby and must start listening to their constituents.
Catherine Glenn Foster, the president of Americans United for Life, says keeping the Hyde Amendment is crucial to the fight.
Let me be clear. We will fight to remove the Hyde Amendment.
Some Democrats say it's discriminatory. And Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says cutting the Hyde Amendment is about fairness.
Way before I was in Congress, as soon as the Hyde Amendment was there, I was thinking, how can we get rid of that? So it's long overdue getting rid of it in my view.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy tells me it's an American issue.
The Hyde Amendment has been agreed to for decades, not just by Republicans, but Republicans and Democrats.
And Catherine Glenn Foster says if President Biden was elected to unify the country, he should safeguard the Hyde Amendment as he did for years as a lawmaker.
It is clear that a supermajority of Americans, approximately 80%, oppose using our taxpayer dollars to fund elective abortions.
Last Friday, President Biden pledged his administration's commitment to codifying Roe v. Wade. And although Democrats control the House, if these 200 House Republicans stick to the pledge they made in this letter, it would be tough for the Hyde Amendment to be repealed in the House. In Washington, Mark Irons, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the single article of impeachment in the case against former President Donald Trump has been delivered from the House managers to the Senate. And today, senators took the oath to serve as jurors in the impeachment trial.
Will all senators now rise and raise their right hand?
The senators took the oath to ensure impartial justice Monday night. The lead House prosecutor, Democrat Jamie Raskin of Maryland, stood before the Senate to read the House resolution charging high crimes and misdemeanors. Republicans are presenting legal arguments opposing the legitimacy of the trial against a now private citizen. They also question whether former President Trump's actions amounted to incitement. Arguments in the Senate trial will begin early next month. Congressman Jody Hice, Republican from Georgia, joins me now on Skype. Congressman, welcome back. Always great to talk with you. There's a lot to get to, but I want to start with the second impeachment of now former President Donald Trump. You tweeted earlier today saying that it was, quote, even more a farce than the first. Can we talk a little bit more about that and why you said that?
Sure. The first one was a farce as well. They started the impeachment process before President Trump was even inaugurated, trying to come up with some allegations against him. And of course, we know as a result, there was the false dossier, the Russia collusion deal, all these things that were totally false. And yet they continued pushing those with the effort of impeaching him. And now, 1 week before President Trump leaves office, they try to impeach him again. The whole issue of impeachment is a tool that is in the hands of Congress to get rid of a serving, acting, sitting president who commits high crimes and misdemeanors. That certainly did not happen with President Trump, and now he's no longer president. So what in the world are they going to impeach him from? They cannot remove him from office. He's already gone. And so this is an absolute farce. It is nothing more than political theater for the Democrats to continue pushing their own agenda, among which is their deep hatred for President Trump, and they just absolutely want to destroy him. This is an abuse of our Constitution. It's an abuse of the impeachment provisions of the Constitution, and it certainly has nothing to do with unifying our country.
I want to turn now quickly, Congressman, to some pro-life legislation. About 200 House Republicans have signed their support to protect the Hyde Amendment. I know that you're one of them. Can you talk about the significance of that and why it's so important that the Hyde Amendment remains?
Sure. Listen, the life is something that is God-given. This is something that our founders in the Declaration, excuse me, they recognized that the inalienable God-given rights that we have begins with life, and every person has a right to life. The Hyde Amendment protects tax dollars from being used to perform abortions. Even Democratic presidents from as far back as Jimmy Carter, every one of them have always supported the Hyde Amendment in not utilizing tax dollars for abortions. It's something that's had broad bipartisan support from the very beginning, and it needs to continue. And for the Democrats now to come and to strip away the right of tax-paying citizens to have their dollars not going to abortions, for them to take that away is un-American. It's not right. It violates our founding principles. And this is something that must at all costs be fought for, defended, and protecting.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to ask you this last question. We are looking forward to March for Life. It's taking place this Friday. And I know you recently introduced a resolution honoring the millions of unborn lives lost to abortion as a result of Roe versus Wade. Can you tell us more about that and what it would do?
Sure. For the second year in a row, I've introduced a resolution called the Day of Tears, recognizing and honoring some 60 million babies that have now been aborted since Roe v. Wade came into effect. Basically, this is a resolution that calls on Americans to lower the flag, to half-staff in honor of all those lives that have been lost, and to keep it in a memory for all of us, so that wherever people travel on that day of January 22nd, they see the flag at half-staff and they remember the millions of babies that have lost their lives. It's a day of tears, a day for us to be in mourning as a country, a day of us to turn back from the culture of death and to pursue life at all costs. And I'm deeply honored to move forward in presenting that resolution yet again this year.
Well, Congressman Hice, we thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you so much.
President Joe Biden signs 4 executive actions with the goal of advancing racial justice and equality. The White House says systemic racism and discrimination have put the promise of America out of reach for too many families of color. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Tracy, good evening to you. Today, President Joe Biden issued executive orders he says will advance fair housing, end the use of private prisons, strengthen the U.S. relationship with tribal nations, and combat xenophobia against Asian Americans.
We're all God's children. We should treat each other as we would like to be treated ourselves.
At the White House this afternoon, President Joe Biden signing orders he believes will help improve equality for all.
Just imagine, instead of denying millions of young entrepreneurs the ability to access capital, we made it possible to take their dream to market, create jobs, reinvest in their own communities. Does anyone doubt this whole nation wouldn't be better off?
Earlier, White House Domestic Policy Advisor Susan Rice, leading the effort, went before reporters in the briefing room and made this promise.
We'll hold the federal government accountable for advancing equity for families across America.
She adds, for too many families,
systemic racism and inequality in our economy, laws and institutions still put the American dream far out of reach.
Also today, Janet Yellen was sworn in as the first female Treasury Secretary by the first female Vice President.
So help me God. Congratulations, Madam Secretary. Congratulations, Vice President.
Janet Yellen faces a nation desperately trying to get back to business, but troubles with COVID-19 vaccine rollouts and the spread of new variants of coronavirus are among the immediate hurdles blocking the road to recovery.
The president and his team have been working around the clock over the past 6 days to make meaningful progress on vaccinating as many people as possible.
Also today, President Joe Biden spoke by phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Among the things they discussed, the New START nuclear treaty, the poisoning of opposition figure Alexei Navalny, a massive cyber espionage campaign, and reports of bounties on American troops in Afghanistan. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Antony Blinken has been confirmed as the new Secretary of State. In a vote of 78 to 22, the Senate confirmed President Biden's nominee as the nation's top diplomat. At age 58, the former aide in both the Clinton and Obama administrations will be the 71st Secretary of State. He is expected to reverse a lot of the America First policies of former President Donald Trump. Iran is warning the Biden administration that it does not have indefinite time to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal. Iran is trying to pressure the U.S. to quickly return to the deal. While President Joe Biden has promised to return to the nuclear deal, Iran says there has not been any communication with the White House. Indonesian authorities have detained Iranian and Chinese crew members on 2 tankers. They were seized for allegedly illegally transferring oil in Indonesian waters. 36 Iranian and 25 Chinese crew members are being held along with documents seized from the ships. Italy's prime minister offers his resignation to Italy's president after losing support of a coalition partner. Giuseppe Conte arrived at the presidential palace earlier today. He is hoping to get President Sergio Mattarella to let him try to form a new coalition government. He met his cabinet this morning and told ministers that he would resign. Coming up, analysis of whether there are signs of hope for the global economy amid the coronavirus pandemic. The number of coronavirus hospitalizations in California continues to decline, and now California is allowing churches to reopen outdoor services in some areas. The state is also lifting stay-at-home orders and an overnight curfew. In addition, Governor Gavin Newsom is letting some restaurants resume outdoor dining as well. Officials in Colombia say the defense minister has died from complications of COVID-19.
Carlos Holmes Trujillo nos deja. Parte de este mundo terrenal.
Colombia's president says Carlos Holmes Trujillo died early this morning and adds that he couldn't express the pain that he was feeling over the news. The defense minister met with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo last year. He was 69 years old. In Lebanon, demonstrators angry at a lockdown scuffle with police after blocking a road. Dozens of protesters closed a major road in the capital of Beirut earlier today. They are upset over a nationwide lockdown to slow the coronavirus. Protesters used garbage dumpsters to close the street until riot police reopened it. Lebanon is experiencing its worst financial crisis in modern history, with thousands out of work. The Chancellor of Germany admits that the coronavirus pandemic has highlighted significant shortcomings in Germany.
Aber die Dinge, die wir in Deutschland gesehen haben, die Schnelligkeit unseres Handelns lässt sehr.
Angela Merkel was speaking to a virtual meeting of this year's World Economic Forum in Switzerland. She said the global outbreak has underlined the need for international cooperation on issues like vaccines. Well, some encouraging global economic news today. The International Monetary Fund forecasts that widespread use of COVID-19 vaccines will lead to greater economic recovery this year. The IMF now projects the global economy to grow 5.5% this year. That is up from its forecast in October of 5.2%. The IMF also raised its growth estimate for the U.S. to 5.1% from a prior estimate of 3.1%. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about the economic outlook here in the U.S. and globally is Joel Griffith, Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joel, welcome back. Always good to see you. This is really good news, but the IMF really was quick to point out this forecast is still subject to uncertainty, with a lot of depending on what we see with the coronavirus. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of variables at play here. And what we know over the past 9 months is that this recovery varies from state to state. If you look at places like Georgia, Idaho, Missouri, and Utah in the United States, those economies are actually now larger in terms of output than they were prior to the pandemic. And that's largely because those states either didn't shut down like other states did to the same extent, or they have now reopened. And meanwhile, if you go across the border out west to California or New York or Illinois, those states are in a severe economic recession still because you have governors and mayors that have kept large parts of the business sector shuttered. So as we continue the reopening process, we should continue the economic recovery, but it will vary from state to state depending on how much freedom returns.
Yeah, and Joel, I know that you know this, that President Joe Biden is proposing a new $1.9 trillion economic relief package. This comes after a $900 billion COVID aid bill, which was passed last month. What are your thoughts on this proposal, and what do you like about it, and what do you think needs to be changed?
Well, there's quite a bit about this proposal that's actually quite dangerous for the economy. You think about the fact that we're borrowing trillions of dollars from future generations to send to many people that actually are employed. 90% plus of Americans thankfully do have a job. And what we're doing is we're borrowing from their children and grandchildren, and we're putting it in their pockets now. And this is not what we need in this recession. This is a recession like none other, a recession where the government itself told businesses, told people they could not participate in the economy. So this stimulus package is not actually going to stimulate long-term growth. It's actually going to be a drag on long-term growth. And in fact, there's parts of this that are actually even more troubling. We're talking about increasing the minimum wage, doubling the federal minimum wage. We're going to be chopping off the rung on the economic ladder for so many people that actually don't have experience or don't have the education that others of us are fortunate to have. We are going to price them out of the jobs market. And this is something that our legislators should be keeping in mind. And unfortunately, they're steamrolling ahead on this multi-trillion-dollar spending package.
Well, Joe, we have about probably a minute or so left, but I do want to ask you this last question. All this really comes amid the release of a new study from economists at the University of Chicago and the University of Notre Dame, indicating the U.S. recorded its sharpest spike in the poverty rate since the 1960s, with African Americans hardest hit. What's the way forward, do you think, in your opinion? How can we turn this all around?
Oh, it's so sad to see what's happened here and elsewhere across the world the past year. We've seen years of progress undone because of these shutdowns. We know what works, and that means lower taxes on investors and individuals so that we can actually increase the number of jobs opportunities, so that we can increase productivity, which increases our standard of living overall. Prior to this pandemic, thanks to regulatory reform and thanks to tax cuts, we had median household income at an all-time high. We had unemployment rates at a generational low. In fact, minority groups benefited even more than other groups with that plunge in the unemployment rate. We need to get back to that, and that means not rolling forward with these proposed tax hikes that President Biden has proposed. That means not moving forward with this assault on our energy independence like we saw the other day with President Biden halting construction of the natural gas pipeline. We need to continue in those things that we know work, and that's lower taxes, lower regulations, and just allowing people and businesses to pursue the opportunities in front of them.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much. Joel Griffith, Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Up next, how the Vatican is responding to the death of another homeless man in Rome. A diocese in the Philippines is demanding justice after a Catholic priest was shot and killed. The 42-year-old's body was found near his monastery on Sunday. Police say the investigation is ongoing. A second man is accusing a popular Chicago priest of sexual abuse. The new accuser is the brother of the first alleged victim. Father Michael Flager is strongly denying both allegations, and his lawyer claims that one of the brothers demanded money. The Vatican has cleared a retired U.S. bishop of numerous allegations of sexual abuse, but the Holy See did issue a rebuke to Bishop Joseph Hart of Cheyenne, Wyoming, saying that he was guilty of flagrant, imprudent behavior. The 89-year-old has denied all allegations of misconduct. Iraqi Christians have begun 3 days of fasting and prayer for peace and stability in their country. One local priest says the faithful continue to face persecution.
This is for us a discrimination. Many of our Christians here in Nineveh Play, they feel that the place is not anymore ours.
Father Bainam Ben Oka says local church leaders want families to remain in part to preserve the Christian influence in the country. The faithful also are praying their situation will be helped by the scheduled visit of Pope Francis in March. A cardinal who is close to Pope Francis celebrated a funeral mass for an Italian man who was homeless. Cardinal Konrad Krajewski presided over the funeral mass for the 64-year-old homeless man whom he said always had a smile on his face. Attendees at the funeral for Roberto Mantovani included members of the Sant'Egidio community and Australian Cardinal George Pell. Joining us now is Carlo Santoro, coordinator of homeless services for the Community of Sant'Egidio and friend of Roberto. Carlo, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Tell us a little bit about who Roberto was and how you met him.
I met him some years ago because, with one group of Sant'Egidio, we go in the night to visit people who are in the street. And they used to sleep just next to St. Peter's Square. And so I have to tell you that he was really a nice man who enjoyed to see people like us. And so generally he liked also to speak with all the volunteers that he met, actually. And after some years in the street, we could help him finding a shelter. So actually, he has been one year in one shelter.
Did you see an increase of homeless since the start of the pandemic? And what exactly is the city doing to address it?
Actually, we see more homeless in the street at the moment. I have to tell you that we had a terrible time last year in March when all the shops were closed and the homeless didn't find food for them, and also they couldn't beg because also the churches were closed. Now the situation is still, there is a sort of lockdown, that is to say it's not easy for us to move. And we see probably more homeless than 1 year ago. But we know also that there are many people in the families who are poor, and probably there is a risk that in the future we will have more homeless. This is clear for us. This is a very dangerous time for all those who have lost their jobs, their activities, and the situation is dramatic for all. We try to help the homeless just going more times to the street, and we try also to help those who are the weakest and those who are the most lonely, and we try to know and to see them one by one. Because we know there are people who risk more, and also recently, 3 days ago, we had another man who died just in St. Peter's Square. That's, for us, it's something terrible because, that's a loss of a person, a human being was totally unknown in this city, but for us as Christians too, it's really dramatic.
Carlo Santoro, coordinator of homeless services for the Community of Sant'Egidio. Thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you to you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.